All right, we are live. Come on in the room.
Come on in the room.
Yes, indeed. All right, now. don't don't get it started now.
Oh, you know what? I hear echo. I'm gonna put my earbuds in.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get it started now.
Oh, you know what? I hear echo. I'm gonna put my earbuds in.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get it started now.
Oh, you know what? I hear echo. I'm gonna
Is
put my
that
earbuds
me?
in.
Okay, that's crazy, right? Hold on.
I'm thinking there's like another device on or something.
No.
I'm thinking there's like another device on or something. I'm thinking there's like another device on or something. I'm thinking there's like another device on or something.
Are you playing it from Facebook?
No, I actually turned that off to make sure.
Let me make sure it's not playing from somewhere else on my end. I see it. That was me. I had it playing on another browser.
No problem.
Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you fine.
All
These ain't
right.
even working for whatever reason.
All right. No more echo. That was my fault. It was playing. I had it in another browser, and I forgot I had opened it
It's
up
all
in my
good. It's all
Safari.
good.
So we can go ahead and get started now. All
Love
right.
that.
If y'all missed it, y'all missed it. Y'all missed a good hymn at the beginning. So, welcome everybody to Octave Opulence Live Chats. I'm your host, Justin Pinkney, Creative Director of Octave Opulence LLC. My goal with this series is to bring influential and inspiring artists whose stories I believe will impact the creatives to find their unique voice and use it to tell their stories while pushing past the obstacles of fear and self doubt. Today, I have a special guest joining me from New York City. He's truly an inspiration. He's been singing ever since he was 1 year old and grew up to having his album Journey to Love chart at number 3 on iTunes Top 100 R&B albums. Please help me welcome the amazing David Sosa.
Thank
How
you.
are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm here with you, so I'm good. I'm good.
Good, good. Um, I want to first get into how we met. So, this was totally a social media encounter. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Um, we connected on social media. We had a mutual friend, Tim Dillinger, and yeah, we ended up connecting on a more personal tip. But I saw you were an artist and was really intrigued by a lot of your covers and the things you were posting at the time. And we ended up meeting. Oh, first of all, shout out to Tim, the
Shout out to
Pentecost,
Tim.
the Pentecostal humanist. Got it right. So for those who don't know, I we tried this initially on IG Live a few weeks ago, and it was really glitchy. We ended up losing like a whole hour of a great conversation. So we're doing this again. So some people may be out there, may be familiar with the conversation, but to all the new people, welcome. Um, so back to how we met. We ended up meeting through Facebook. I want to say maybe 2017, 2018. And then 2019, I was in New York City, and I saw that you had posted that you were hanging out on a particular night, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm up this way. We should meet up. So we ended up meeting at Hangers.
Hanger,
What's
yeah.
the name of
The hanger
it?
bar.
Okay, okay, in New York City, and we got to talking about life and got to talking about music and upcoming projects, and
Something
Yes.
sounded real robotic for a minute, and then you switch back. I just want to make sure you knew.
Okay. Okay. It sounded good on my end.
Yeah.
Is it still having a problem?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Let me see
Tech
what's happening.
technology. Technology.
Hold on. Let me see something. Say something.
Hey, testing, testing. No? All right. All right. Getting the technology together. Getting that technology together.
Now
Um,
you sound totally fine. So let's see. Let's make that
okay.
work.
All right. Good, good. So we were in a Hangar Bar in New York City talking about live, talking about music. David was telling me about some visions he had about performance. Daniel Alvarenga's in the room. Thank you for letting us know we sound good. Appreciate it. Um, so we talked about maybe potentially collaborating, but what we've come to do today is have a conversation about music, about overcoming fear and self doubt, and the journey to love. All right, so David, can you tell us about yourself, where you were born, where you grew up, and any other background details you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was born in Manhattan in New York Hospital. Um my parents had at that point were living in Astoria, Queens, and moved us out as a family probably about when I was about 5 or 6 years old to Brentwood, New York, which is in Long Island, Suffolk County. And so that's where I spent the majority of my life growing up. I left there probably when I was 20, I'd say maybe 27 or 28, and moved to Queens, and I've been living here ever since. I started out singing, I mean, very young age. Like I said, probably about 1.5 is the earliest recording I think my father has of me singing and making up melodies by myself, like just whatever I could think of, and imitating other songs and remaking them to my own. Um, and he was very instrumental in making sure to push me about my gift. So he had enlisted vocal coaches of various backgrounds from Broadway show tune type of singing, learning how to sing without a mic and reach to the back of the room, as well as through that opera and jazz standards and classical jazz and things of that nature. So I got a pretty rounded idea of musicality in various genres of music and vocal stylization, besides the R&B I grew up with and the soul music I grew up with in the household.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how many years did you spend in training with the Broadway and the classical instructors?
I'd probably say I started as early as, maybe if I had to guess, I'm trying to time frame here. I want to say maybe as early as 12,
Mm, okay,
and that continued on until I would say either between 19 and 20 is when it stopped. So for several years I was just in constant singing and performance. If I was doing off Broadway musical type things and musical theater, and just trying to encompass various aspects of singing and stage performance and things of that nature. So for a while.
gotcha. Yeah, okay. So what exactly were you singing at 1 year old? So you were making up melodies, you were listening to stuff and making it your own. Like, can you describe that a little bit more? Like, what does a
So
1 year old come up with vocally?
vocally, right? That part. So what I was told was, because I don't remember it, what I was told was I used to love to sing "Born to Be Wild," and something about that, like, I just keep practicing it over and over again, and it was like my little thing. And then I was obsessed as a child, supposedly, with Fraggle Rock. Like, it
Oh, wow.
was my favorite show in the world. I just couldn't live without it. And I would try to sing that theme song as much as possible. And then at some points, I would fight with my father on cassette. Just hear me fighting with him that I was I was dead set that the song did not really have lyrics after a point, and that it was I, and the song didn't go like that. But you would hear me instructing my father, like he would be like, "No, it goes like this. Take your tears away," and I'd be like, "No, I." Like this was the part I heard. This is what we're singing, and that
Come
it's
on,
just stuff like that. But he has me as that early, like this is your part. This is what I need from you. This is what I hear.
come on, choir director.
Right at 1.5.
So, aside from the experience you just talked about, um, what is your earliest memory of music in terms of song and or artist?
Wow. Um, a lot of memories there. So I remember the first time I said I was going to sing. I knew it. I said I want to do this thing. It was about 89, I want to say, like 1989 or so. And I think Mariah Carey's first album came out. And I think she was singing Love Takes Time. And I just
Wow.
remember hearing her just do what she does with her voice. And just I remember feeling like, oh, I want to do that. I want to sing. This
Mm,
is something I want to do. Um, and the house grew up. I mean, I grew up on much, much just different types of music all over the place. And my brothers listened to like White Snake and Led Zeppelin. They had their own little thing, and hip hop. And like my sister was listening to like En Vogue, Shy, all the 80s, 90s R&B. And
yeah,
my
yeah,
father was pulling out the milk crates on Saturday morning, putting the vinyls on, and we're listening to Stairway to Heaven from the OJs and Harold Melvin and the Blue
yes.
Notes and
Oh,
Delphonics,
yes.
Stylistics, and so all that really shaped, my musical influences. And, he would take time, like literally, I don't know if he knew I was going to be like just musical, but he would instruct me on things, and he would say, listen to these singers, listen to what they're doing with their voice, listen to how they're interpreting a song, like LaBelle doing, or at that point, Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells singing "Oh Danny Boy." He's like, this is a very Irish
Mm,
standard that would normally not be sung by an R&B group or a soul group. And he was like, and they're singing it, and understanding that he was teaching me at that moment how to be eclectic, to listen to various types of music and learn from it. Always learn from it and be ready to sing anything, because you never know. I guess he was thinking more gig oriented. You never know what you will be hired to do. And so if you're
yeah.
well rounded, you're going to be able to do just that, and fine. You know what I mean? And so that's something that always stuck with me.
So your dad was a singer?
He did. He sang. He's more of like throw a few beers back with the boys type singing. So like when we grew up, he would get with the guys. Sometimes they all have a few beers, and then they'd sing doo wop, and they all will find their part and sing, in the still of the night, and up on the roof under the boardwalk. And so my father, he has a really good voice, but he never wanted to be a singer, as far as I knew. He never expressed the desire to sing. He just liked music and liked to sing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So it's in the DNA. It's,
it's in the DNA.
it's yeah, yeah. All right. You mentioned Mariah Carey and In Vogue and many of the artists of the late '80s, early '90s. Are there any other musical influences that might come through when you write or when you sing?
That's a great question. I learned to write music, honestly. Like I got the confidence, I should say, to write, and or the idea to write my own music, probably because of Mariah Carey.
Wow.
I had I This is back in the day, folks, before you got to just read everything online. We used to get something called the CD with a booklet or a cassette, and I used to look
Yes.
at the words, and I was riveted at how melodically things fit, and maybe had a rhyming scheme or maybe not, and how the storytelling was really happening. I think that was the biggest deal for me. I realized that storytelling, and I actually learned that through Tim, the storytelling element, understanding how important writing was and conveying a message. But I started realizing it at a young age, and I remember understanding that she was writing everything she was singing. And I was like, this is somebody who connects with this in such a way that it's not, just music that, is just shopped to an artist. And I remember just seeing that. And I by the age of about 15 or 16, I started venturing on writing my own music and feeling
Wow.
comfortable enough to do so.
Wow. So when did you first release music?
This was 2020, the end of with my first album. I had just
Wow.
other than putting stuff out on MySpace back in the day that I was working on and
Come
things of
on,
that nature,
MySpace.
you know,
Shout out to MySpace.
right? But I think like I did session work for a lot of people and did a lot of
Mhm,
just backgrounds or singing hooks on various rappers, this, that, or the other. Some of it got used, some of it was just demo. But I think that the majority of that, I was very much afraid to release anything personal. I
mm,
was I
yeah.
was just in fear. I had always been in groups the majority of my life and experience. If I wasn't on stage with a cast, I was in a choir where I stepped out as a soloist and then got to go back into the choir. And so I never got to have or never desired to have a center light on me,
Mhm,
a spotlight in any particular form. So it was always a rough thing for me to really understand how to deal with being looked at and not just heard. And then so, as obviously as you grow, I had to come to terms with that. And I released, like I said, my first album in 2020, end of September. And I was like, just put it out, press send, and
That's right. That's
and be
right.
at peace with it.
You just gotta jump. Just gotta jump.
Facts.
So some people's writing process is very technical. And you spoke of being a songwriter and writing and arranging at 1.5 years old.
Mhm.
Some people went to school for it. For some people, it's intuitive or a combination of both. I've even heard of people seeing colors as they write music. This
I've
is a
heard that.
phenomenon called synesthesia. What is your writing process, and what is the experience like for you in terms of feeling, in terms of, uh, where do you feel it in your body?
The majority of um my music is coming from something I've observed that's affected me or I've went through that's affected me. I probably say 9 out of 10 times I'm writing from a place of something I have went through or experienced fully myself. Um, and like I said, maybe every now and then it's something I've seen in other people's lives or in just life in general, because I think life is constantly providing you examples of material,
Yeah,
period.
yeah,
We don't all have to go through something to know about it or to write about it, right? We can know it from, a third party perspective, so to speak, sometimes. But I think for me, melody gets me. I will be someplace, somewhere, and I'll hum something, and I'm like, oh. And then the hum continues, and then more notes continue, and more ideas start happening. And then I'm reaching for my phone, and I'm recording that little tidbit of something. And what I'll do eventually with that is sit with it and then see where it takes me. Like, what does it make me feel? It's very much an
mm,
intuitive process. What
mm,
does this make me feel happy? Does this make me feel sad? Does this make me feel, vengeful? What is it? And then I sit in it and start to allow. It's allowance. It's really stepping into allowance, allowing the words to come and start figuring out. Okay, the little thesaurus comes up in my head, and I'm like, what do I want to use to say this? How do I want to say this? And how do I make this fit this melody? Because this melody is important. It's the living, breathing thing that happens. The words have to fit it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I write from that perspective. Never formally got taught how to write. I've definitely gotten pointers from people in seeing how they approach their writing process, and always willing to learn. I think I'm always going to be a student at heart. Always.
That's awesome. So for you, the melody comes first. I mean, after the idea or the thought, the melody comes first. Okay, okay. How do you push past fear in releasing new music? and
Mhm.
you're kind of new to the artist space as a
Mhm.
solo artist,
Yeah.
singing all your life, but branching out into your own journey as a solo artist is relatively new. What is your process of getting over fear?
Uh, I can't say I've done it alone. I had the privilege of joining a spiritual center called Celebration Spiritual Center, and I met two pastors who have become dear friends and not just spiritual advisors, right?
Hmm.
That's Pastor Greg Stamper and Yolanda Batts. And I at that point I stopped singing. I did not want to sing anymore. And it had been about maybe 2 years of rest where I was just like, I'm good. I can sing in the shower and I'll be okay. Because the music
Wow.
industry itself had unraveled me and disgusted me so that it to me it wasn't even a point of creating if I couldn't do anything with it. And I'm like going out and facing this world and this industry of all things and putting, more money into it than you're getting back and all the other nonsense that happens that I was just like, I'm good. I'm over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way the gift works, it's always in alignment with God. And I felt God pushed me. He was like, oh, that's cute. So, and so I wound up right. Tim actually had come touring. He was singing in a church. He was singing his single Baton.
Oh,
And
ooh,
yeah, which is an
it's
amazing
a heavy
song.
one. It's a
That
heavy
song,
one.
that song
Woo.
transformed me. Like I heard that song, and to this day, I'm just like, I grab my chest almost every time. And I think knowing the muse of why he wrote that, and like that was enough to
Uh,
get me like this in my chest. But and having been there for it, some of it, But I think to hear it finally put out and grab so many gems from it. But he was singing this song, and at this church that had just opened, and here came the other two who had saw us sing on their first date when I was with Soul Kiss, me, Tim, and
mhm,
the other gentleman we were singing with,
mhm.
and so they asked me like, "Oh, would you like to sing in our choir? We're having auditions," and I'm like, "I don't know," and I said yes because that's like at this point it beats singing in the shower. I get to learn new music and keep that constant thing going. And I don't know. I can't tell you if it was spirit, although I know it was. He would push me into passing the mic, like in the middle of a service where the spirit hit, and we're just like, boom, here, minister. And I'm like, in the middle of a song, it was unrehearsed, it was sporadic, and I started to understand in those moments that I could let go of the fear because it didn't fail me. Spirit and the gift did not fail me. Whenever I got handed the mic and I took the mic, I was able to use the tools of musicality that I already had to do something more. And
Gotcha.
and
Gotcha.
and we talked about it. I know last time, but I always just say I'm like I learned that singing and or making music was not just making pretty sounds. It was a ministry. It was
That's right.
something that invoked things in people, and I didn't realize it. And that's what I think really helped me with the fear because I realized this is not about me as much as I think it is. This is about my fear of being seen and being heard, and therefore I'm holding back my own gift, which every time I release is blessing someone.
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
selfish is that for me? So I was just like, no, I can't do that. That's not right. I gotta get past this thing.
So in the spiritual center, you were able to, for a lack of a better term, practice flow. Practice being a channel, and that's a beautiful part of some a lot of church experiences. It's very much impromptu, and you have to be in a place of surrender for it to work.
It's that. It's that. It's the allowance. Because
Yeah,
fear is really an obstacle.
that's
So when you
right.
step into allowance and that goes to the side and it's something it's something I learned with them. They were like faith and not the idea of faith really is it's hard. It can't exist in the same place as fear because fear is this idea of what can't happen and faith is the possibilities and knowledge that everything's possible, anything
Everything's
can
possible.
happen. And
Yeah,
knowing to step into that and come into the frame of mind that everything is working for your greater good. and just that. So you take pressure off of yourself. I'm like, it wasn't in those moments when I had the mic in my hand, it wasn't about, oh, this is the run I did in the shower, or this is, you're not thinking about anything else. You're
Yeah.
in the present moment. There is no future, there is no past. You are in the flow, in allowance, and everything is working through you.
Am I on my body? Am I using my diaphragm? None of that. None of that.
None
Just
of that. Is my
yeah.
throat dry? Is my lips dry? Is my one button buttons? No, you don't. You're not there. You're in the gift, and you're in that flow, like you said, and it's a beautiful place to be. I think it's scary for some because to slip into that place. I mean, for me, it was because I had blackout moments. I don't remember what I did in those moments. I have to watch later if
Wow.
it was taped, and I'd be like, oh, I was clearly in the spirit because I don't even remember any of that.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing. So this process of surrender and allowance allows you to get past anxiety in the moment while you're performing. But as a musician myself and as a performer, I know that there is pre-performance anxiety, for a lack of a better way to describe it. How do you get yourself prepared before you perform? Or do you even experience it? I mean, you might not even, I hate to project my experience on you, but first of all, do you experience it? And if you do, how do you overcome it? And
I
this is
have
for
experienced it a
pre-performance.
few times. I get the stomach gurgles, and I get the pacing, and I'm pacing around and I'm rocking and singing stuff in my head. Because I'll be completely transparent. My biggest issue is always lyrics, even the songs I wrote. I
Wow.
very much feel like
Wow.
Patti LaBelle with the teleprompter. Where are my background singers? Like I'm just like I need my teleprompter with a cue card. Like because I literally and I wrote the song and I still like will blur the words, you know what I mean? So I get into those modes, but then again, I can honestly say the use of affirmative talking and speech and language and understanding, I have to remind myself, and I've done this with other artists I performed with where I'm like, it's not a prayer moment, but I'm like, come here, let's breathe.
Mhm,
Let's
mhm.
be centered in the now. And then
Yes.
I focus on these very key things. I'm like, we've been singing for a very long time and we love what we do. So why are we actually nervous about anything?
That's
We're
right.
actually sitting here to have an opportunity to do exactly what we know we're meant to do, what we love to do, to sing and to make music with this band, with these singers, with the venue in front of an audience. And a lot of times, I hate to say it, it's not even for the audience. It's not.
Mm,
I sing for me. I sing for the love of what I do. There could be one person and nobody in there. And what I tell people, it's like, it's something I learned again with Tim. And Tim was a huge influence. But like when I would rehearse with Tim in the living room of, our old home, it was fun. It would become something where we learned our parts, we laughed, we had food, maybe some drinks, whatever. It became this very fellowship just oriented thing. And so I always tell people when we rehearse together and when we perform, we're in the living room right now. This is not
ah,
this is not the space to be all in your, oh, how I look and I might go off. I give people room. There's sometimes the background singers are doing something extra. I'm like, oh, you better sing. Like let's encourage this because we're making a moment. And then the soloist and the guitar. I'm like, do that thing. Like you're doing it. You're in the spirit right now, and it's adding to something. It's creating something. So that's where we need to be. We need to allow ourselves the living room space, not the
yes.
fear and the pacing and the for what. This is what we love to do.
That's what we love to do. And one thing I like to tell people who might be starting out and, you know, performing or writing is something that I heard from actually a musician from New York City. His name is Jules Bartholomew. He's one of the keyboard players and songwriters for Hezekiah Walker. Um, I don't know if you know the song "Calling My Name," but he wrote that one with Timothy Figueroa.
You better write.
But he said something that really has stuck with me, and what's from the heart reaches the heart. So you said something so poignant when you mentioned you tell yourself that I'm not actually doing this for the audience. I'm doing it because I love it. I'm doing this for me. And just that act alone of coming from an authentic place from within yourself, it's going to inevitably reach the audience, you know? It's because your experience is true to you. And I think in that process, you're connecting with your own soul, you know? But when we get into the fear and we get into wondering what people are thinking about our performance, when just becoming self-conscious in that way,
Right.
we get in the way of our soul. And I really appreciate you bringing up that point. It's a beautiful, beautiful point. How has the Rona impacted you over the last 20 months?
Oh, Rona. Uh, honestly, it was a blessing in disguise for me personally. I had in the interim of all the craziness that was going on, I had got into a car accident. I had just a bunch of stuff happening. And then I found myself cleared to go to work, ready to
Mhm.
be at work, and then Corona happened and we're back at home now. And what I found was I had time that I did not have before. Less time traveling in on the train and to and fro and this that, and the other. And I'm like, I just realized I can book time to do things and make it, push to do the stuff that I normally would have to wait for weekends to do. If I wanted the
Yeah.
2 hours after working a full-time job where I'm exhausted when I come home and trying to sing after talking all day on the phone, we're not going to be the best voice. So I would wait. I'm like, now I can actually maybe take a midday nap at home for my lunch break or something, right? Keep
Yes,
hydrated the
yes.
whole day and then go start a studio right after the time I would have normally had to wait for travel. I can start early and get out early. And so I dedicated that time. I had a talk with myself and I said, you know what, this is actually the perfect time to continue doing any last minute editing vocally you want to do and start pushing these songs through. I think COVID was allowed for a lot of people to take out loans and things of
Mhm.
that nature against some of their 401k, which I did, and helped me just push, the mastering of things and the mixing of things, and then obviously the release of certain things and promos and all that. And so I just spent the time trying to just utilize that time, and I actually encouraged many other people. I said, this is the time now you didn't normally have with your family or your friends that you're actually stuck at home with. You're in their face. And I'm like, and it's a really good way to check back in with self and figure
Yeah.
out where you're at
Yeah.
and what it is you want to do. I'm like, I'm sitting here doing the music that's been sitting in a hard drive somewhere, recorded, and I'm putting it out. I'm doing what it is that I love. So I encourage a lot of people during that time. I'm like, find the time to do what you love, even if it's 15 minutes a day. Find the time to do
That's
it.
right.
Don't leave that on the
Yeah.
back burner. There's no
Yes.
excuses now because I gotta go into work and these kids and this husband or this wife. No, no, no. You're home now. Some people, I'm like, they couldn't work or they couldn't work as much or they got to happen to work remotely. I'm like, utilize your time, your energy, your resources to do something you love because we are spending
Mm.
time doing nonsense out here for other people. We're working, working for the man every night and
Come
day,
on.
right? So I'm just like, how much better to work towards something that makes you happy, if it gives you fulfillment.
That's right. That's
And so
right.
that's been my focus since I put out that album. I've been making sure I still go to the studio once or twice a month, and I put eight
Mm.
hours to good work. I can create
All
a good
right.
3 songs in 8 hours. Let's go. Background
I
vocals
love
stacked.
that.
Let's do it.
I love it. I love that. Keep it working. Keep it moving.
Yeah.
So the independent journey is a trying one. What obstacles have you faced as an artist and how have you overcome them?
Booking is interesting. I'll be honest with you. I don't know I never had to approach someone to be booked someplace or what even questions to ask for things. So these are things that, again, they're not taught. They're taught through experience. Usually I sung a lot of background gigs. So I would just show up and everything was there. Everything that needed to be there was there. The main artist who hires you, they do all that. So I never had to ask these questions or do that or reach out to anyone for whatever case may be. So performing, God is good. Performances have been given to me and have fell in my lap in the last year or two. I've been
Mm,
given opportunities out of the blue from, I mean, internet opportunities like this and platforms even to sing in these instances. And actually perform now that things are opened up. So I have yet to have reached out to anyone and request singing at their venue. These opportunities have come, and I'm super grateful for. But it's hard. It's hard when you're just thinking about like, where do I invest my money? How much of it goes into promotion, which is important, how to
yes.
best promote, how do people hear you on multiple levels. I try to take advantage of all of the social media, the TikTok, the IG, the Facebook, whatever, Twitter, just trying to make sure I'm seen and heard, reposting my music or clips or whatever to just give people an idea of who I am as an artist and things of that nature. But that's been probably the hardest thing. And then just doing it all your own. You know, I don't have anybody to rely back on. It's just me. So there's times where I just feel a little bit overwhelmed,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it could be balanced. It could be balanced. It's not impossible. It's just more difficult without a team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're believing that one day you will have the bag enough to get a team around you
Hey,
and not have
my
to
God,
not have my God and not have to worry about all the administrative stuff. You could just focus on writing and creating and
all I
performing.
want. That's all I
Yes.
want.
It's coming. It's coming. Um, we as creatives can feel like outliers, outcasts, and struggle with this society standards of falling in line with, a perceived norm. What has helped you to stay grounded and authentic?
Um, I think the idea of self-love has really been something that in the last 3 years I have been probably more than that, but I would say in the last 3 years have really come to a very particular head in my life at just a particular point, and I've understood that I have to honor myself at all times. And
Yes.
part of that was understanding that even with my music, I'm like, I was very hesitant to release certain songs because of content that may have been sexually suggestive, let's just say, right? And here I am, a grown man who obviously has experienced sexual intercourse. And here I'm afraid to write about it because what someone may or may not think and may or may not correlate with whatever. And I realized that I was giving too much power away
Yeah.
to the what ifs. The fear again was acting up, and I'm like, who are these people in general? Like, where is their importance in my life to such a degree that I have to be so worried about what they think I may or may not be writing about, or whom. So I had to release. It was a lot of releasing and understanding that I get to honor myself, as a Latino man, as a person of a particular, size, so to speak. You ain't seen no six pack here. It's gonna be I'm well fed and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm of a
Yeah.
certain
We
age. You know what I'm saying? I got the whites to prove it. Like, I'm not trying to be anybody that I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
Love
just gonna
that.
be me, and what you're gonna get is me, vocally, personality wise. Like, this is it. This is what you get. Is what I have to offer.
And what people think about you has nothing to do with you actually.
Right.
Has everything to do with them and what they're dealing with or what somebody told them or what frame of reference they had about life from
Right.
someone else. So I love that. That is a great point. That is such a great point. What gets you through in general the hard times? Doesn't have to be music, could just be, everyday life.
Music is a lot of it, honestly. Music is really like in my worst moods. I'm throwing on my playlist on Spotify or something. I'm like, I gotta minister to myself. I need some of this music, and I'll have my moments. Like, and depending on my moments, that'll change. Like, if I really feel like I need some pep in my step, like I need some push, I will I will throw on very old gospel. And I say very old, but I mean I throw on like the Caravans, the Davis Sisters, like
Wow. Wait a
James
minute.
Cleveland. I think
Wait a
the
minute.
yeah, I think the newest in that maybe Leandria Johnson at the newest, which I really love. But like even Reverend James Moore, like I listen to like this music that gives me it. it's just sung from a place of faith and strength in such a way that I feel it gets me going. It gets me a little bit. I'm like, you know what? I got this. Whatever this is, I got it. And then there's moments if I'm in my bag, if I'm really in my bag, my good old
Yeah,
Mariah, I would get in
yeah.
there. And Mariah has wrote some songs that have got me right on through, and I just put them lyrics on, listen to them, and be like, I've been there. I know this. I know what you're singing about right now. You know, and
Yes,
that's
yes,
it,
yes, yes.
but music is it. Like, and if it's not that, I'm writing and I'm putting it out on paper. It's a form of diary and journaling. It's
Mhm.
just to music, and I'm writing about my feelings and all that I can and getting it out of me, so I'm not holding nothing in.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. And you mentioned gospel. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that you didn't mention gospel as, your influence, because I hear a lot of the church in your voice. I don't,
It's a
you
fluke.
know,
It's a
it's a
fluke
fluke.
because I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and they
Oh,
don't sing like that in the Kingdom halls.
no, they
And I
don't.
always had a Pentecostal spirit. And I've and no, it's true. Because I would be singing and I'm like, y'all ain't singing. Like I'm like, well, y'all, what are we doing here? Like this is too like there's no life. And I think the time that I would spend with folks outside of that spiritual tradition, so to speak, or that religion, and I would
Mhm.
spend time with people and I would hear gospel and I'd be like, oh, this is it. Like this right here, baby. This is God music for me. Like I'm like, I don't know what we singing in the hall, but here, well, I don't feel no inside. I was like, hey,
Yes,
like,
yes,
come
yeah,
on
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like, so
yeah,
it was
yeah.
something that always, and then I would bring that home and they didn't know what to do with that. They would just be like, what is that? What song is that? What do you like? Where'd you learn that? I'm like, didn't get it. But no, it was there, but it wasn't as present as far as I grew up in the church, as far as that type of church. It wasn't Kojic or apostolic or Baptist even. I definitely grew up in a Jehovah's Witness. And people who've known me all my life will tell you, they're like, no, he's there's an old church somebody inside his body because he's ready to
Yes.
shout for no reason. They don't even shout. What's happening here?
My.
Right.
Mm-mm-mm. What has been your craziest moment in music?
Craziest moment. You know, so many weird things have happened. There was a gig when I was like 18, 19 singing, and I went to reach for a note, and what came out was something probably like a whole octave higher, and it literally was like whistle tone, and I was just like, I remember someone had it on like camcorder. I don't know where it's at to this day, but someone had it, and I hit it, and you can see I looked around like I like sustained it, and I looked at the other two guys I was singing with, and they're just looking at me like, and I'm like, we're just gonna leave that alone. It was a fluke. It happened, but like little things like that. I don't think I've had anything too crazy yet happen. I think, the craziest thing I think I've happened is being undervalued or disrespected as an artist by certain venues or certain people where they think you're still doing pretty sounds. They don't really appreciate what it is that gets into rehearsing and paying people to be there and putting your heart and soul into a performance and trying to create a sound and an energy around something. And so I would say moments like that where people have talked in the middle of my show or like, just got drunk and acted crazy or whatever, stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, you keep it moving as a professional and
Keep it moving.
you do better the next time, right?
That's right. That's right. Can you tell us about your catalog and body of work? Tell us about your first release through your most recent.
The first release I had because COVID was really on our heels and writing Journey to Love was such a um not to be cliche, it was such a journey for me because I actually started recording a song that was based on spiritual principles. I started recording music around that, and there was two songs I wrote. One was called Introspective, and the other one was called Long Road. And I started really putting that work into it. And I'm a constant conversation with self and with spirit all the time.
Mhm, mhm.
And as I was getting ready to keep on putting out this music, it very much was clear to me that you're showing them this part of the journey and not how you got here. So yes, you got these spiritual principles on the rap, which are really beautiful and they're going to touch people. They are going to minister to people. But how did you come to that? You got to go to the beginning of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was fearful because I had to now come back into the pain I went through. I had to come back into the vulnerable moments I felt about what I thought love was. And the hardest lesson coming out of a long term 7 year relationship, that was my first relationship ever. So from 21 to 28 years old, was I was in a committed relationship. And I realized that I did not have any idea of who I was. I had no idea of how it looked like to love myself or honor myself. I knew how to show up for other people. I knew how to be a partner and a husband for people. I did not know how to do anything for myself
Mm.
and put that energy and attention back in myself. So the biggest part of the journey to love was understanding that my ideas of what love were constantly challenged by my interaction with people, because the reality was is that I did not love myself enough to be loved. I did not know what it was in order to even expect it or demand it or look for it in other people. And so
Wow.
that was really huge for me, and I had to go back, and some of the songs I kept the first original raw vocals on, like
Mhm.
Falling to Pieces. If you notice, there's some scratches in my voice sometimes. There's some breaks in my voice. I actually was tearing up singing it back in there because I remember what I
Mm.
felt when I did it. And I redid the vocals and sang it. And I was like, that's too pretty. It's not even catching what it was that I felt. And I'm like, this has to be authentic. And I rather the mistakes be there and the not so pretty to really understand what it was like writing Falling to Pieces, where I'm sitting here after being 7 years, us and we, and sharing a house and animals, and now it's just I and me and shopping for one again because I would go out and buy things this other person liked, and now I'm like, so this broken to pieces for me was, this unit you were has broken, and now you're back to yourself. You're rebuilding who you were again,
Mm.
back. And so it was just a big thing for me to say, I towards the end of that song, my big revelation was I actually thanked the person for what they put me through because I
Wow.
understood the lesson. The lesson was it was pointing me towards my healing and towards my betterment. And had I not experienced this by the hands of the person I love closest to me, I would not have come into that understanding, into that power.
Mm.
So a lot of that
Wow.
happened.
Wow.
A lot of that happened during the stuff. So if you like really listen to the lyrics, you'll see some of those moments where I'm in a rough spot, things are funky, but I have the solution. The solution was always there because spirit was always there. God was always talking to me, and I didn't always listen, but the little voice was there, and I think I think it was just it was why I think towards the end I was able to release this with a little ease in my heart because I said, you know what? Since God was involved in my process and spirit was involved in my process the whole time, I know those who need to hear this are going to feel it in their spirit and it'll reach the right ears of who it needs to
Yeah.
reach. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that was the majority of that album, and my latest single, Ocean Fire, was some of the more of the, like I said, the sexual tension that I had with dating with somebody that I knew we had that super duper attraction where it was that spontaneity, that desire to be together at any moment, but just to be together, and so Ocean Fire is really about that internal tension that's happening and the desire to express it. And so, yeah, I try to write from various parts of life and things I felt and have gone through.
And you released Ocean Fire almost exactly a year from when you released Journey to Love.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
It was my new project. If you hear it, it's totally something different I would never really tend to do.
Yeah.
It's more produced,
Yeah.
definitely much more what would be considered a trap beat. Um, but I
Trap beat.
trap beat. No, I really started to challenge myself. I realized I was turning my nose up a lot at the progression of music, where it was going.
Yeah.
And the problem with that was I was not giving respect to the art. And the art is always present. And so, again, in my many conversations with self, Spirit was like, So you can write to anything and sing to anything. So if you don't like what people are doing with this music and you feel like they ain't saying nothing out here on this radio or doing anything, you write it and
That's
you
right.
do it.
That's right.
And
That's
I was
right.
like, oh. So I pushed myself into working with music and producers and stuff that I would not normally work with. And Ocean Fire was the first of that. And there's much more to come I'm really excited about, but it pushed me into a place of discomfort and growth. And I'm really, really grateful for it.
Love it. Tell us about the new single "Toxic."
Say it one more time.
There's a new single called "Toxic."
Toxic is coming out. Toxic is a rough one. Toxic is it's very R&B. It's probably what I would call a new age Isley Brothers type of deal with the guitar, heavy guitar, and
All right.
the softer vocals and such. But Toxic is it's a nod to relationships and or interactions or situationships, maybe even with people where I realized we had such a strong chemistry. And when we were together, intimate and otherwise, it was really good. However, this person hit every red flag they could possibly hit. And I knew it and know it, and I can't leave. I know they're no good for me. I know we should
Woo!
end,
We have all
but
been there.
I can't bring myself to do it. So Toxic is really
My,
about that. It's a conversation with myself written from that perspective where I know you're no good for me. I know I have to let you go. I just don't think I can. And it's not about a solution. It's literally just about it is what it is. It's an acknowledgement of this is where I'm at the moment, and I don't know what to do with that.
we have all been there. We have
Yes, we
all
have.
been. Red flags. Red flags are like blinding us, and we still decide to stay. Something inside is either holding us there from fear, or it's like it's feeding something in a weird way. I don't know, but that's a different live. That's a different live
That's all, baby. Get me back on that one.
altogether.
We need to discuss that together because I got thoughts.
So you talked about the most recent work that you've released because Toxic is on the way, but
Yeah.
Ocean Fires is your latest single, being an exploration of trap sounds in the production of the work.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the state of music today?
Um, I I have a lot of thoughts. I don't know. I think I'm from a different generation. I think that has a lot to do with it. I honestly have to say that. I think generationally, I am, and I really hope it's not taken the wrong way, but I feel like I have to say it as I say it. I'm not impressed very much.
Mm,
I'm not going to say that there's not a lot of artists out there who don't have good music, but I grew up with greats. I grew up with Patties and
yeah,
Chakas and you know what I'm saying, and Luthers and Donny Hathaways and people who will sing something flat-footed, not move, nary a firework or a dancer, and blow you out the water and
that's
have you
right.
feeling things inside and outside that you don't even know what to do with yourself. So I'm not easily impressed. I have yet to feel something from the majority of singers. And I can say that they're good singers, but they're not great. And people will always sit there and talk about how great this person is. I'm like, no, they're a good singer.
Mm.
I look for a goosebump factor at the very least. And it's something I do because I'm like, take me someplace. Like, and I feel like the content, primarily now is so sexually oriented. It's nothing but sex and escapism through drugs and whatever.
Yeah.
That's the majority of the themes I hear is in almost every song. It's very rare that I'm hearing anything else, and so I don't know. I wish people the state of music is interesting because I really wish people would get back into life and really experiencing life. Like, how did you feel when your child was born? How did you feel growing up with parents that treated you a certain way? How did you feel being loved for the first time? Like, let's talk about some different things, like
Yeah.
other than sex and drugs, because baby, that ain't it. Like, that's such a small part of life. Like, So I don't know. I miss lyrics. I miss lyrics. I miss heartfelt singing, not the lazy, lackadaisical stylings and the constant use of falsetto. I don't know what happened to baritones. I'm assuming they
That's a good
died with Lou
question.
Rawls and Barry. I don't know. Like everybody's a tenor and a soprano. Everyone's trying to get to the stratosphere. I'm a little bit over it personally.
It's been a while since we heard a baritone or bass. It's been a long time now that I think about it.
I'm a tenor
Yeah.
Barry. I'm gonna go into my Barry because ain't nobody got time to be up there all the time.
Yeah, yeah, no, we don't want the stratosphere to cut out the sound. We want oxygen.
Because even Prince gave us range.
Yeah, yeah,
Prince gave us range. He'll give you all that highs and still be like right down in the basement if you need it. So like, where is that? Let's get some of that. I want to feel some things, and I haven't been feeling it that much lately. A few artists here and there. I will not take away from certain artists. There's a few new artists that I'm like, okay, you got something here, and it's making me happy. Like, but overall, like it's you used to be able to hear the radio every day and hear about 5 or 10 singers that you were like, ooh, like that's not it. That's not it no more.
yeah, yeah. That's for sure. I'm totally there with you. Hopefully there's going to be a change. You got to kind of search for good music. Like you got to go. You got to really dig into the underground. You got to be connected.
Yeah,
Um, but people like you sticking to the authenticity. I think eventually it'll get back to where it needs to be. But right now, in my opinion, I would say we live in a microwave generation, and it's what can quickly sell. So, you know,
no time for that.
I ain't mad at the hustle, but give me something to eat. Give me something that'll fill me up.
That's literally it. Like I think there's that too. Like I had a and not to change the conversation or segue into anything else, but I had the conversation with myself too about what success was. And I was very clear that success for me was not about being on the top of any charts. It was not about being on a signed artist. I was successful because I did something I love and I saw it all the way through. That
Mm,
album could not have been released. I could have took that album and just because I completed it, I could have put it somewhere on a hard drive and still been okay with it. That could be on a
wow.
shelf somewhere, but I saw something I wanted it. I created it. I put the blood, sweat, and tears in it. And then I did it. I completed something I wanted to do. I am successful.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so I wasn't, none of this has been money oriented. Would I like to be compensated for what I do? Absolutely. That's never not a thing, right? Would I like to have the opportunities to make money doing what I love? Absolutely. But the goal is to make music and create, not to sell music.
That's it. That's it. Well, David, that brings me to the end of the interview. I really appreciate your time, and we can call IG Live the dry run. We lost most of that, but I really appreciate you taking the time to join me again on the platform,
Of
and
course.
you've once again dropped us with some gems and some jewels and things that we can take back with us and apply to our own creativity. Are there any parting words before we end the session?
No, but just please, if you're out there, find time to do what you love, make yourself a priority, and of course, follow me on the platforms. And please follow. Justin, you're making music out here. I love it. You're writing and you're producing and you're recording. And so I just say, please support your artists out here. Please support us that are doing this. COVID has hurt a lot more people who could not perform and who could not do what they love to do well. So please just make sure you're supporting your artists, share, like things. If you can't do a Venmo or a Cash App or something, share and like. Let it go
Yeah,
viral. We share stupider things. Like
that's
show
right.
people that you love and support them. If they're performing, buy some tickets. Like folks out here ready to buy $200 tickets to go see somebody that they don't know. And the people that you do know, y'all ain't even spending $20 on. So just think about it, context, and just support your people like you want to be supported.
What is your platform? Your
My
social
platform
media.
on IG, I'm at DAVSOS. I'm D Sosa on Facebook. You might even find me by my regular page, David A Sosa. On Twitter, I'm also DAVSOS. And on TikTok, it's DAVSOS720. But I am here. I'm out here trying to connect with folks.
That's awesome. Really appreciate your spirit, your willingness to share, and I just want to wish you a happy holiday because it's that time.
You,
Any before we part ways, because I know you're it's holiday season. It's a great time for people to get out and perform. Are there any performances that you want to have people be aware of that might be coming to the New York City area or in the New York City area?
yes, I'll be performing next Friday, the 10th, at the Bronx Loft. I don't have the address complete right on me right now, but it is all over my social media, so you will be able to find that. And I'll be performing with a bunch of other artists who are all amazing in their own right, from R&B to hip hop to everything, a little bit of rock. It's going to be a bunch of stuff in there. And so, yeah, definitely check out any of my pages. You'll see events for it, and ticket sales are still available, I believe. It's almost sold out. So hopefully folks are jumping on board with that. But yeah, that'll be December 10th at, I believe, 8 p.m. in the Bronx.
All right. Well, David, this is goodbye, but we definitely look forward to hearing more music and more messages from you. So, again, thank you
Appreciate
so
you.
much.
I
Really
appreciate
appreciate
you.
it.
Love you, man.
Love you too. Take care.
Thank you.